We take on the thorniest projects, the projects that often have an outsized impact and an opportunity for innovation. And the residents at Riverside Square definitely represent that type of project. This development will create 16 new apartments and will bring life back to a long vacant and blighted lot. A decade ago, in 2013, three buildings that made up the Vamco jewelry factory were demolished, and the city underwent environmental remediation of the site. After a series of fits and starts, the city issued a new request for proposals for developers, and One Neighborhood Builders was selected in 2020.
Jen and her team have done a great project with Sutton Place, where they preserved naturally occurring affordable housing for the long term. Now it's restricted and will stay as housing for many, many years. She didn't mention it, but the East Point development, which is another great partnership with Jen and Elders Bridge here in the community, will create affordable housing for the 55 and older community and targeting the LGBTQ community. So we're very excited about that. And then project that I'm super excited about, and we're hoping that all of our delegation is listening loud and clear because we need the funding to get this to become a reality, is the project on Taunton Avenue. You're taking a former dorm facility and a couple of vacant lots that have been sitting there vacant for quite some time, doing nothing for the community, and we're going to turn that into affordable housing that, once again, takes into account our foster population that are aging out. It takes into account those people who are currently homeless, who have no place to go. So what you're doing is God's work, Jen. I know I don't like to bring religion into this, but really what you do and what your team does, collaborating with everybody, really is what makes a difference in our community and for those people who are struggling.
The partnership with One Neighborhood Builders and Foster Forward will generate continued success for our residents. And as mentioned, especially those who are aging out, youth aging out of foster care. As an educator, I've seen this need, and I'm very grateful that it exists. And I'm grateful it will exist here in East Providence. As Jen mentioned, the mayor mentioned, I look forward to working collaboratively with the city, these organizations, to expand the opportunities. So we are working diligently in the Senate to accelerate the timeline for that project on Taunton Avenue in East Providence.
Now, from a personal standpoint, as a resident, long time, 55 years, believe it or not, of Riverside, I consider an empty building to be a blight of the community. I've discussed this with Mayor De Silva. I was at Easter yesterday. And part of the reason I was able to win is I'm related to most of the people that voted for me. Yesterday, I was at Easter, and it just, when did this place close, and does anyone know? And the consensus was, how long's this been empty? And the consensus was forever. It's been at least 2 decades. It's been a blight. The fact that two needs, getting rid of an empty building and housing, can coalesce here is a real testament to everybody involved.
We're not where we need to be as a state. Our housing production level is one of the lowest in the country. We compete for the very lowest rate of production. That's not where we ought to be competing. Now, what that means is there's a squeeze on all Rhode Islanders. All Rhode Islanders, when they're out in the market, they can't find the housing they assume justifiably they'll be able to find at the price points that have traditionally been available to them. And it especially impacts our lowest income Rhode Islanders. We must build more truly affordable housing in our state, and we must increase production across the board. We started out with severe, difficult economic conditions during the COVID stretch, during the national COVID downturn, and we emerged with the strongest recovery in the Northeast. We know we can get from the bottom to the top. We've got to do it here in housing because at this moment in time, it perhaps matters most as a public policy issue. That's why Governor McKee and the Speaker and the Senate President are aligned to work on this issue. Jen got it right on another specific point. The resources brought to bear thus far, the $250 million, I was proud to be one of the co-proposers, co-authors of that initial plan for that $250 million. That's historic, that's crucial, that's generous, and it is not enough. It is not enough. We lack some of the structural features of our public policy infrastructure, some of the tools that other states have to routinely produce affordable housing. and for that matter, housing. But one of them that stands out as an illustration is that in the Northeast, almost all the states have a companion to the federal low-income housing tax credit, the 4% and 9% LIHTC, the low-income housing tax credit. Only New Hampshire and Rhode Island do not have it out of 8 northeastern states.
We need more developments like the residences, properties that provide a mix of apartments and serving a range of household incomes. This property is going to provide housing for individuals and families between 30% and 80% of area median income. So let's talk about what that means. That means that an individual who wants to live here can have an income at $20,000 or less, or a family, a three-person family, could have an income of $69,000 and be able to live here. In a time where housing demand is so high, as the secretary said, rents are spiraling out of control, this is a step in the right direction.
Without proper supports, young people aging out of foster care in this country, more than a quarter of them will experience homelessness within 1 year of leaving the foster care system. But that's not going to happen here in East Providence because of this incredible partnership. During the pandemic, Congress authorized foster youth to independence vouchers that provide young people leaving foster care from 18 up to the age of 25, 36 months of subsidized rental support. And we worked diligently with Rhode Island Housing First and then with the city of East Providence to obtain 25 of those vouchers for each jurisdiction. And I have to say thank you so much to the city of East Providence's East Providence Housing Authority for working with us on this, because they've got 25 vouchers and young people are holding those vouchers like a winning lottery ticket they can't cash if they can't find a unit. And we, as a board, tried to, at Foster Forward, figure out how we could scale up to have 100 units of affordable housing for young people leaving foster care within 3 years. And you can't do it without people like One Neighborhood Builders and people like Jen Hawkins, who are helping us scale. And these 3 units will help us with the East Providence Housing Authority to be able to put those vouchers into use. And hopefully with continued development at 350 Taunton Avenue and continued partnership with other community partners like Crossroads and Family Service of Rhode Island, we will build the vibrant communities that all of our young people and families deserve in Rhode Island.